Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that. Thought I unmuted my mic there. But welcome to today's webinar, Small Business of Community Interest. And I am Tamel Harbison with the national team as the Meetings and Programs Assistant. Today is a continuation of yesterday's webinar, Competitive Intelligence Tools Demo Part 2, GovWinIQ with Dell Tech. But before we get into the presentation, let's go over a couple housekeeping rules. You enter the webinar in a listen-only mode, but we ask that you double-check your mics and phones to make sure that they are muted. You may present your questions throughout the webinar in the chat functionality and GoToMeetings. Also, this webinar is recorded. So let's introduce the presenters for today. We will start off with the prospect of the presentation, Joshua Frank. He's an award-winning business coach, professional speaker, and best-selling author. Mr. Frank is a nationally recognized authority on government sales and business acceleration. With 30 years in the government market, he speaks nationally on federal acquisitions and business strategies. He specializes in the development and implementation of techniques and strategies required to differentiate positions for a win government contracts. His training sessions, highly educational and thought-provoking, are consistently rated the top sessions at national conferences and events. Managing partner at RSM Federal, Mr. Frank is author of Amazon's #1 bestseller and an insider's guide to winning government contracts, real-world strategies, lessons, and recommendations. Mr. Frank was awarded Veteran Business of the Year and Industry Small Business Advocate of the Year by SAME. He serves on the board of directors for the St. Louis Veterans Business Resource Center and also a former intelligence officer. His master's in his management information systems and a master's in business administration. And then let's get to our other presenter as well, Mr. Brian Catcold. Mr. Brian has been with Dell Tech on the GovWin side for 9+ years, starting as an AE and promoted to management 6 years ago. He has worked with all types of government contractors, from startups to the largest government contractors. He grew up in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC, the son of a federal government employees, went to the University of Virginia, the defending NCAA basketball champs, as he stated, and returned to Northern Virginia after graduating with a degree in economics, and is currently live in Leesburg with his wife and 12-year-old son. Now I would like to turn it over to Mr. Brian.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me, Tamel?
Yes.
Perfect. Since you all saw Josh's responses yesterday and fun facts, I figured I'd play off of that a little bit. I do also live with a dog. He's a Terrier Pit Bull mix, and he absolutely loves me, but he absolutely wants to take my life because certainly he loves my wife better and wants to be alone with her. I also have a dry sense of humor. In my house, it's called Dad. Sometimes the dad jokes are so dry they don't come across as jokes. And you know, sort of order on Josh's. I love the hustle and bustle of city life. My wife does not. And as per Josh's response, I too have given up on where to retire. So, Josh, are we ready to get started?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Brian. I'm looking forward to it. You know, we're an environmental remediation firm out in Utah, and we've never used one of these systems before. I mean, we've had one. We use the free one that PTAC provides, but we're ready to put our intelligence and our systems on steroids. So I am looking forward to the demo you're going to give me today. Okay.
Why is it that you're investigating tools at this point in time? Anything in particular that's happened?
Yeah, well, yeah, we've just completed several contracts. My sales team They've got these large pipelines. I don't see it. They're not really picking up the phone, making the calls they need to be. They're not collecting the competitive intelligence they need to. That translates to our proposals. We're not differentiating at the level we need to. And so I grasp that, these tools alone are not going to help our company win any contracts, but some of the simplification, the intelligence that a system like GovWin can provide, I think is going to be able to help us win our next, consistently and successfully win the next number of contracts over the next 12 months. And so that's why I reached out to you and said, hey, can I take a look at the system?
Yeah. Excuse me. So do you think there's a reason that they're not reaching out and not to the government points of contact in their pipelines, or not doing the competitive intelligence?
Part of it's management. You can't blame it on a tool. Part of it is they're just not getting out from behind their computer. And we know 80% of your time should not be behind the computer, should not be on the system, should not be in a CRM, a customer relationship management system. But yeah, the problems, who to contact, who to team with, the intelligence behind those decisions. I want to see how much of that I can get out of your system.
Have you done a lot of teaming in the past?
We've got our stable. We're sort of like everybody else. We have a stable of teaming partners. Some we just haven't been successful with, others we have, but we've got this stable of about 12 companies. And I recognize, I was talking to our COO and I recognized, at some point we need to ditch the ones that aren't providing value, right? If we haven't won with them in a year, I don't care how close or how strong our relationship is, clearly there's something going on there. And I want to replace them with other companies. But I want to replace them with companies that are specifically within our strategic targets. And that's another one of my issues. And I want to see if GovWin can help me. I want to understand from a propensity perspective, who buys what I sell, how much they buy, how often they buy it across the whole federal government and the armed services. Where is that taking place? And where should, tactically, we can find the opportunities in SAM. Right? We don't need another system for that. What we do need, though, is a system that'll help us target and provide additional intelligence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What happens when you do find something in SAM? Oh, and let me ask this question first. How do you like the new beta.sam?
The new beta.sam sucks.
So you put it very nicely there.
Well, here's the reality. It's getting better every day. They deployed, we're going a little off topic here, but they deployed SAM. People didn't realize they were deploying SAM in blocks. GSA got real smart though, and when they started the migration for FPDS, which already the ad hoc advanced is already in there, they were smart enough to tell industry, look, all these pieces deploying into the new integrated award environment, the IAE, right, of which, SAM's part of, they're doing it in blocks.
Yeah.
So SAM is getting better. It is nowhere where it needs to be, at least from an opportunity search capability. So yeah, you know what? Actually, that is a good question, because I'd be curious to see if the search capabilities within GovWin will make it easier versus SAM, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have SAM pools as well. But when you get something from SAM, do you find that there's enough time to do what you need to do, which is obviously you've talked about doing the competitive intelligence, but also talking to the points of contact within the government, especially if you don't have a relationship, to be able to begin to build the relationship? Do you find that there's enough time for that?
Yeah, the answer is yes, because we've shifted our entire strategy as a company to move 80% of our time into pre-acquisition. So our focus is sources sought, draft solicitation. We're a small business. Sources sought, draft solicitations, pre-solicitations. And so, that's our focus.
Okay.
And based on the strategic targets, right, that I'm hoping you can help me with today, and then possibly future using your system, if I know my top 3 strategic targets and we're focused properly in pre-acquisition within, I don't care whether it's SAM or GovWin or any other system, and we get out from behind our computers, we're going to be fine. We have the time to collect the intelligence. But to be clear, Brian, yes, 80% of our time is going to be focused pre-acquisition, but 20% is tactical, which means we're looking at those opportunities. And just because we don't have intelligence doesn't mean we're not going to respond. We still got to make money in the near term.
Of course. All right. Would it be helpful to have early insight into opportunities prior to even the sources sought or the RFI stages?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Are you talking like recompete kind of information?
Certainly, there will be a lot of recompetes. The more and more the government goes along, and my 9 years of doing this, the more and more they roll contracts, and we've seen this in certainly in the IT field already happening. It's beginning to happen in the environmental services fields as well. But rolling existing contracts into contract consolidation. We all know that.
Yeah, you know what? I was getting ready to go, Brian. I just don't give a what about recompetes, because there's some recompetes for the remediation stuff that we do, but most of the contracts, once it's done, it's done. But you do bring up a really good point, because if they do contract consolidation and bundling, yes, I am going to be interested in that. So yeah, make sure you show that to me.
Yeah, are you investigating the category management that GSA and OMB have released on each contract?
Yeah, that brings up a point. That's something else I want to see. As part of our corporate strategy, based on category management and strategic sourcing, we know that in 2020, give or take because of COVID-19, but in 2020, our current strategy is we need to be on at least 2, if not 3 large IDCs, large indefinite delivery contracts, right? IDIQ, MATOC, MAC, whatever, right?
Yep.
And so, short answer, yeah, okay. Yes, absolutely, because we just missed. We got surprised with this huge Corps of Engineers, Army Corps IDIQ for what we do, and there just wasn't time to respond. And I screamed at the team and said, we have got to find a way of figuring out when these IDCs, IDIQs, whatever you want to call them, come out before they come out, because we can't be locked out of a certain market that we think is strategic. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So yeah, category management's important to us.
Okay, great. So I'm hearing certainly competitive intelligence, agency intelligence, who's buying and from whom, opportunity identification, whether it's as released or with recompete opportunities, especially on the large IDIQ type of opportunities, and obviously I said competitive, said agency, category management within those. So did I cover a lot of what we're looking to cover today?
Yeah, I think so. And if something pops up in the middle of whatever, I'll ask.
Sure. And Josh, just to let you know, as far as identifying some of those big players as well as the agency spend within your marketplace, I've brought one of my colleagues who's the head of basically the federal government spending team. So he's a data junkie and is responsible for putting together, actually build out our federal spending analytics program as well as our task order program. He's been at Dell Tech longer than myself. His name is Nico Fisher. And he's just one of the people that works on the analyst team that I'll highlight. So in a little while, we'll get to Nico to sort of show us how quickly we can sort of identify who's in the space and where the space is. Does that make sense?
Hey Nico, how you doing?
Great, very nice to meet you.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'm ready.
Thanks for coming, Nico. And first, though, Josh, I'll give you a quick overview of GovWinIQ, if that's okay, and then we'll jump into the live solution.
Yeah, that's cool.
Perfect. So I think you know a little bit about Deltek. Deltek sort of covers the government from start to finish. GovWinIQ being the start of that market and opportunity research. Obviously, we cover everything that includes going out and being DCAA compliant with our cost point and vision tools. But obviously, we want to talk about GovWin. And this is going a little bit quick. Sorry about that. So why do companies use GovWin? You know, to identify those perfect fit teaming partners, to identify the agencies, the customers, how they behave, what their buying habits are, what contract vehicles they might use, to identify those opportunities before the information is released, you know, so that they can, you know, come together, benchmark labor rates, and then ultimately make better bid, no bid decisions, improve win rates, and improve the efficiency. This is something you've already talked about. Instead of spending 80% of the time behind the computer, spending 80% or 90% of the time out in the field. Improve the efficiency with the amount of time that you do spend researching and the efficiency with where you go after. So you don't want to go to Army Material Command if all your work is in Army Corps of Engineers. You don't want to be talking there. So let's figure out who that goes to.
Okay.
Sort of to help you along this route, we have customer success manager who's assigned to your account. At the beginning, there's an onboarding manager as well that teams with the customer success manager. So you have two people at the very beginning of your membership to help you get up and running, to train you on how to use the solution, but to, you know, keep you going. That customer success manager will be with you, you know, throughout, you know, your contract, provided, you know, we don't have sort of a change, they get promoted, which has actually happened recently a few times, which is great. But they're there to help you out, get research requests, even ask the government questions on your behalf if you wish. We'll get into that a little bit more. So on the federal side of things, apologize, these numbers are always dynamic. So you know, just want to throw out the low end of the numbers. We're actively tracking well over 15,000 active federal opportunities at this point. Over 70% of those were identified prior to a release on FBO. People, you know, some people have said in the past, well, we're sort of just looking into, we're just guessing and looking into a crystal ball. On average, 95 to 98% of the opportunities that we're tracking are competed and awarded. We all know the big stories of the government canceling things very late in the game. You know, the day they're supposed to release the RFP, there's a $4 billion Army contract that was a training, education, and coaching contract that was canceled. One day after they confirmed it with us and one day before the RFP was supposed to go live. So those things happen. But our analyst team is there to also not just identify the opportunities, but update the opportunities from cradle to grave. So once we identify them, if it's a recompete, we'll identify if the option years are being exercised, all the way up until a source of solder, an RFI is released, RFP, obviously, amendments, modifications, through the source selection process into award, and actually post-award as well. If there's a protest, we'll monitor the websites where those things are protested, and you know, get updates on the protests as they come out. Any questions about any of that, Josh?
Nope, I'm good.
Have you ever missed an amendment or a modification release on FBO and sort of scrambled?
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of folks. It doesn't happen much. It doesn't happen often right now, only because I'm beating people over the head to watch for those. But if your system can make it easier, definitely show it to me.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just mark an opportunity in our system. I'll show you how to do that. And basically,
cool.
as an update comes out, it'll get pushed right out to you, so that you have it real time. Tons of federal contacts, well over 13 million labor rates. We have agency profiles and organization charts, so you can get you know, a ton of information, as well as federal spending analytics tool, which basically is, if you've ever used FPDS, it's an easy to use FPDS. And I'll show you what that means. Nico's going to show you what that means in a few minutes. On the state and local side, I didn't really ask you how active you are on the state and local and education side of things. Do you ever do any work in that area?
You know, I wouldn't call it a sweet spot. But
Okay.
I mean, we do watch our local, our state and local, you know, bid boards here in Utah. But yeah, I mean, sometimes, but we're really focused on the federal.
Okay, perfect. Just real quickly on the state and local, you know, if you decide that you sort of want to branch out, or you know, from your state, and maybe the reason that you don't do that is because it's just more bid boards to monitor, more places to register, all that kind of stuff. If that's a reason, you know, we're tracking 95% of it. Basically, anything over a population of 4,000 people, any entity, as well as a ton of special districts, so on and so forth. So we got 95% of the market covered.
Is this part of GovWin? Is it a add-on? Do I get this automatically?
No, there are separate packages. So there are federal packages, and then there are state and local packages.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, to include a regional packages to be able to choose a couple, you know, to be able to choose a handful of states depending on and so.
Okay.
So you could choose 3 states, 10 states, or national coverage on different packages as well. So they include different things.
Cool.
So 3,400 member companies focuses on the federal. There are actually over 6,500 companies that are using us. The other, 3,000 or so are primarily state and local based companies. And there's a lot of those came from our acquisition of Onvia, which was one of the biggest state and local providers in the marketplace. And that happened about 2 years ago. But again, in the federal space, lots of companies use us, 3,400 companies, and that's all fine and good. But you're a small business, you want to see people that look like you. Over 70% of our membership base is small businesses. So you can look at, again, dynamic numbers, 350 plus 8As, 400 women owned, so on and so forth. More and more HubZone, actually, as people seem to be valuing going after getting a HubZone certification. Big thing that I'm really proud of is it doesn't matter. I've worked here through sequestration, through government shutdowns, now through something completely different. But year over year, 85% of our members renew. I mean, sequestration was the same thing. People are laying off employees, but keeping GovWin to make sure that they have a continuity of information and that they're making their employees, as efficient as they possibly can be. The number one reason for non-renewal is merger and acquisition of 2 existing member companies. And the second reason is we're no longer going after government business.
Sure. Okay.
We've talked about the analysts very briefly. Nico is one of those analysts, but we have over 150 analysts that are going after identifying opportunities, updating those opportunities, pulling certain data sets together and making them usable, such as Nico's job. And they're there to keep in contact with the government, and you can use them as well. And how you would use them is you go through your customer success manager. So they sort of act as a lot of different things, a person that can train you and get you up and running. And the training's unlimited. So as you maybe add people and you want more training, that's fine, no problem. We can train them, there's no additional cost. And then you can also ask a question of the government that maybe you don't want to ask on, by yourself, by you being identified as yourself. And so we'll call the government and say, hey, we heard a rumor that blah, blah, blah is happening on this contract. The option year is not getting picked up. It's up to the government to say yes or no comment, but we'll ask that question on your behalf. Or you feel like you should know the answer, but you just don't. We can call and we call it saying we're Deltec. And that's unlimited as well.
Okay.
Some customers that use our solution, and again, 74, 75, 76 or so percent of our members are small businesses.
Okay.
Any other questions about the PowerPoint before I jump into the live solution?
No, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Minimize that. Here is the landing page of the solution. Lots of good stuff on here. As you can see, we're tracking all of the events of the day. It's a rapidly emerging situation, as you can tell, as we all know. So, we're tracking and analyzing stimulus packages, what it means for government contractors, what it means for money that's going to be pushed to the state, so on and so forth. And then we're also tracking the upcoming opportunities around this virus, which can even mean that a couple of that have recently been released are retrofitting hotels for hospital work that are coming out of Army Corps of Engineers and so on and so forth.
Gotcha. Hey,
So-
hey, I do have a quick question, Brian, before you keep going. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, from an NIA perspective, a national interest action perspective, is there enough data at this point that I'm able to identify what what any of the NIA, what is it, P20C or whatever the code is, or do I search by COVID? Do I search by norovirus?
Brian, can I take this one?
Sure.
Yeah, yes, we already have it integrated into our federal spending analytics and contract award searches. The best way to search it is Fed spending analytics, because that's transaction based. So if you want to see everything the government has marked with P20C, you're right about that. We would use Fed spending analytics. There's a field for it for national interest action. We have over 80 fields related to that FPDS data. So you would just literally scroll down. It's under additional federal filters at the bottom of the page, because to be honest, it wasn't used a whole lot until, we're in the midst of something.
Yeah.
But national interest action, you see on the top right, and you'll see it. It's actually at the top of the list. So you can just select it there. And then that's going to bring up any procurement transaction that's been marked for, P20C COVID.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yep.
Okay.
And all the money is in FY 2020, obviously. So the default selection of FY 18 and 19 don't really apply here. But yeah, as soon as we take those out of the picture, there you go. There's your breakdown.
And this is just starting. So
yes.
Now, do you have a 90-day lag? So this data's coming from FPDS, right?
It's coming from FPDS. It's the defense agencies that have a 90-day lag for national security purposes. We're pulling all the time. So as soon as that data is public, we're pulling it in. But yes, just like
Cool.
anyone else that's not, in that agency, we have that 90-day lag. That is sort of the law, so to speak.
Cool. Thanks, Nico.
Yep.
And while we're in here, why don't we take some time to identify what agencies are buying within, I'll take the filter of COVID off of here. We'll just sort of go back to the setting. Real quickly, though, you could see who's winning under each organization. And so GSA work, U.S. courts, Interior, so on and so forth. Obviously, Justice, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, the companies that are winning and how much they've won already around this this response effort.
Okay.
With anywhere you are in this, you can download this information, export this information up until a size point. When you layer on everything that you can possibly layer on into the federal spending analytics, it becomes a very, very large group of data. And so there's a limitation on what you can download, but I could download this list right here pretty easily. But let's just jump right back and reset on the federal spending analytics. And Nico, do you want to drive me through, what you were looking at?
Yeah, so to sort of shift focus off of the virus and back onto your environmental remediation work, I'd heard that you were using NICS code for some of the searching you were doing. I wanted to suggest we take a look at PSC code. So the PSC code that applies sort of most generically to environmental remediation is F108. And are you familiar with sort of what PSC codes are?
Yeah, we even though I know our NAICS is 562910, most of our searches, are keyword, but I do understand and grasp that product service codes are more granular and much more powerful than NICS codes. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, they're they're designed to pertain to the work that is being done on that transaction. So it's supposed to reflect what is actually happening here. Whereas the NICS code is more about the type of company that's working on whatever it is, right? And so product and service code, another sort of neat side note for it. If it starts with a letter, it's going to be a service. If it starts with a number, it's going to be a product. So here we see F108, that's a service. It's environmental remediation services. And I'm not going to go into all of them because I think it's a pretty deep rabbit hole, but there are several other PSC codes that would be relevant to you. There are all sorts. So there are PSC codes for environmental assessments for specifics like oil spill or water or air quality. There are all kinds. So I picked one that's just kind of gives us a nice broad view of everything.
Okay.
And so, Brian, I think it would be helpful if you could hit the view full screen, just so we're not sort of missing the FY20 and grand total part of the picture here. Great. Perfect. So basically, just by typing in F108, what we're seeing here is it's an ordered list. Who are the top buyers in government for this service? All right. And real quick, before we add anything else in, Brian, I wanted to draw in buying org level 2 and buying org level 3, just so you get an idea that it doesn't stop. Oh, not contracting org. Sorry, it'd be buying org. So you can get a picture. We're not just talking about things at the Army level. We go down inside the Army Corps of Engineers, inside Army Material Command, and this is sort of a system that we built on top of the FPDS data to give you that clear picture. All right, here's who's buying inside the Corps. And so you can see district by district where those dollars are coming from and what they're for. And the tool here, if you've ever used an Excel pivot table, you're probably recognizing some of this stuff. This is like a web-based dynamic pivot table for over 37 million transactions, because the data goes back well before FY 2018. It's FY 2010 to present, and it's updated every week. So Brian, you can go ahead and take those 2 buying org levels off. I just wanted to give you a quick picture that, yeah, if you want to dig into these agencies more, that's absolutely something this is designed to do. So
Josh,
Brian,
Josh, real quickly, does this hit on, sort of the top buying organizations that you had expressed interest in earlier?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah, as long as I can identify, again, we have to decide on 2 or 3 strategic targets, right? Organizations that we're not looking to bid on specific opportunities. It's who should we be building relationships with? Which industry day should we be looking at? Which conferences and events? So yes, I guess what I'm going to have to do though is identify all the PSC codes or keyword or what have you here, and put them all together so that I'm getting a master list, right?
We could do it with a keyword search as well, and your customer success manager can also help you identify all the PSC codes that would be pertinent to you as well.
Okay, yeah, no,
that's
pretty good.
That's the sort of request that often comes to me. Hey, we need help finding environmental remediation PSC codes. I'll build a list and send it to that client. And those research requests are no cost added. So every one of our clients can submit research requests and we complete them at no additional cost. It's typical like 24 to 48 hour turnaround. But yeah, Brian, thanks for taking those off. And if you want to draw in contractors now, just like Excel, when we draw this in, we're going to get a list of the top companies under each of these departments. If we want to take a step back and look at the market in general, or look at all the companies here, we can just reorder these. And then if you hit the collapse row labels button at the top, that'll help sort of clear the picture. Brian, right under where it says 12,825, there's a minus button where it says row labels. Oh, no, sorry, it's just above the Bechtel group, the top row. It's in the middle of that row. Yeah, so hit that. Here are the top companies in that space. So previously we're looking at the top agencies. We're already looking at the top companies. We don't need to run another search again. We can just sort of endlessly reconfigure this data to investigate this slice of the market.
Okay, so all right, let me quickly jump in.
Yep.
You know, my company, hypothetical company, my company is in Utah. I want to know which of these companies are currently operating in Utah on any military installation or federal location. Can you show me that?
Yeah, so Brian, go ahead, and I want you to first take out buying org, Brian, just so we can, I'm trying to keep the table as simple and sort of clean as possible here. And then scroll down to get to the P's in this list. And we could do this search up front as well, but we can draw in place of performance state/province. And then we'll actually get a breakout of all the states each one of these companies is working in. So what I said earlier, we could have applied to filter on the front end of the search, say I only want to see 5 different states. We can select those up front. And then we're not going to be seeing anything from like Pennsylvania or Texas.
Hey, Brian, can you reorder those rows so I can just see Utah? I want to see how many companies are supporting in my state that do what I do.
So select United States first, Brian.
Yep.
And then Utah will be in there. So what I meant there was,
go lower too.
Yeah, you have the option to sort of select all the states you want up front. It is also possible to do it after you perform the search. On the left-hand side, we have these things called facets, which are basically like you can filter data down further there. You can also add data back into the chart. Like we could add another fiscal year to this picture if we wanted.
Okay.
But
So,
here you go. So
again, we'll reorder this, and then we could take off the buying org as well. But you can see Jacob's work in the Army, and we could, actually add on an buying org too to see which organization was in the Army.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because right now we're sort of working local inside the state versus looking at stuff all over the country. And what you're showing me, this is Utah, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, yes. So this answers my question. Okay, thank you.
Place of performance is Utah right there.
Awesome.
And
So basically, if you've ever gone into FPDS and ever tried to do this, this will take you, I don't know how long. Nico, how long?
Too long for me to know the answer to that question. I mean, the way we've set this up is really designed around extracting more information out of this data. So you're going to find things here that you're not going to find directly in the FPDS data. Those are connections that we've made to this data. For instance, if you want to see the contract vehicles that are being used for whatever our search is, it's one button click away to get the names of those contract vehicles. So you can draw those in and then reorder everything, and that would be the list of all the top vehicles. Like you had mentioned earlier, the max or the multiple award contracts, you can get that list for any sort of market segment in this tool. It's very easy. So does that make sense?
Josh, you good? Wait, have we lost Josh?
I ain't good. Sorry.
All right, good. Good. Any other questions about how you would use this analytics at this point? And before I go into looking for some opportunities.
Let me think for a minute. No, I think I think that's a good start. Yeah, let's show me the power here of for opportunities. I'm ready.
Okay. So I can do an advanced search, which I'll get into in a minute, or I can just do a keyword search. This keyword search is going to search across effectively everything that we have, and that'll be opportunities that are upcoming, opportunities that have passed. We've been doing this since Nico and I come from a company called Input that started in business in 1974. So we've been doing this a long time. We have a lot of information. And historical information is definitely good, but typically that's not what we're looking for. when we're starting out using our tool. We're going to be looking for stuff that's upcoming. So we have the terms forecast pre-RFP, that will highlight some of the work that is upcoming. And we've gone from whatever was 128,000 opportunities with the keyword of remediation to 1,900 very, very quickly. If we wanted to eliminate the state and local, then we can certainly do that. But as you can see, we have lead alerts on the state and local side that would basically, our analysts are reading capital improvement plans and budget documents to identify what's been funded in 2,600 plus of the largest spending organizations on the state and local and education side of things. So what is funded? So this, for example, these are the start years, so they're still live because there are out years in this that are funded as well. But we could always just sort this by created date. And we'd be looking at different times. So this is funded for $2 million in 2021. What I'm going to now do, since you're focused on federal, is look at the federal opportunities that are upcoming. We can, again, narrow this down. We can look for place of performance. What we're going to see is that, maybe narrowing down to Utah, maybe very, very specific. So just keeping this open right now, we could certainly do that as a place of performance, and we can even do that in here. Sorry to scroll fast, but you could do it the same way that we did it with the place of performance earlier. As you can see here, what's interesting about this, we talked about your NAICS code, but there are remediation opportunities, and I meant to pull this up when we were in the federal spending analytics, that fall under other NAICS codes as well. So we don't want to miss out on those NAICS codes.
Okay.
Great to know about SAM procurements and procurement notices, but for, and you'll have those, and you can see that they do get fed in as they're released. And you can see the created date on this one. This is one of those Army Corps projects. Came in, the 24th is due tomorrow. So this is one of those, the COVID response type of opportunities where they're talking about remediation. So we definitely get all those SAM things, procurement notices as well. And then we can also just look at the tracked opportunities. Let's just go back by relevancy. So environmental remediation services, IDIQ, this is something that you said you'd be interested in potentially getting on an IDIQ. This is set for a solicitation to be released here now in the coming days, whether it's been put on hold and we're trying to track it down. We'd have to look into that, into the opportunity a little bit more. Here is something that maybe is a little bit closer to home, being in Moab. And so you can see this is a $184 million estimated opportunity with a solicitation release date in June upcoming here. You mind if we jump into this to give you an example?
Yeah, no, that's
all
perfect. Right. I'll tell you what, though, we're not going to deal with uranium.
Fair enough. And we can look at all the other ones that are out there as well. But what you get here is sort of the what's the idea of the opportunity. We talked about marking the opportunity so that you get analyst updates when the solicitation is released, when the amendments or modifications come out. They'll just be pushed out to you via email. Additionally, jumping back one step with your Sage search, you can identify on a weekly or daily basis new opportunities that fall within your search criteria. So you don't have to remain tethered to any of the solutions.
Okay.
You don't have to remain tethered to SAM. You can be out in the field. You don't have to be behind a computer. This is mobile active, so you can get into things via your iPad, your phone, etc.
Okay.
Back into the opportunity, tons of information. In this case, it is a recompete opportunity because it has an existing contracts tab. Points of contact within the government. These are the people that we're talking to confirm that this is an upcoming opportunity, which we don't post it unless the government confirms it is with us. Place of performance, as you can see, is in Utah. And the existing contract holders are going to be Portage Environmental.
How long was this initial contract? So it was awarded in 2010?
We can get contract details by year.
Well, I'm just curious if they're, it's hard to get a program out of 8A after it's in. I'm curious if they're able to recompete their own contract.
Oh, well, the company itself?
Yep.
Well, they graduated.
Yeah, but I'm just curious. That's when they graduated. Was this contract originally 8A?
I doubt it, but we can go find out. That just highlights, let's see, resources, related opportunities. This is the previous opportunity that was awarded in 2010.
Okay, yeah.
And what was this? Pull that up real quick, and
Let's see here.
you can see here it is in fact a small business set aside.
Okay, so they got it
But
as
not in 8A.
Okay, nope, I needed to know that, whether or not they can go after it again. Thank you.
They can, because they did it last time too.
Yep, cool.
So you can see, you can get the description of what's going on here. We'd have, so you can determine if this is something. You already said uranium's not, so maybe instead of marking the opportunity, you want to hide the opportunity. But you can get information about the contract as well. So obviously the spending by year is important. How much are we getting toward the ceiling value? Are we barely burning any? And is it a contract of value that we should be going after?
And Brian, this is a summary of all the various individual contract actions over that period, right?
That is correct. And you can see the actions reported and the amount spent.
Okay, thank you.
You can also do that by company. If it's a government-wide acquisition contract, you could do it by agency. So which agencies are using to purchase, which companies are winning, what is the socioeconomic status, what budget sources did they actually use to fund the contract, et cetera. So a bunch of historical data around what's going on the previous contract.
Okay.
You also have the ability to advertise your interest if you wish. In this upcoming opportunity, much like you would on FBO or beta.sam.gov, just one of those things where can you advertise your interest before?
Yeah, honestly, Brian, and you're going to shoot me for saying this, we never do that.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not going to shoot you for saying that at all.
Yeah,
you might want to.
Brian, from our perspective, most of the folks that are saying they're interested, those are, if the folks that aren't saying they're interested, that I want to be talking to, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking at other data points. I mean, it's cool that this exists, but some companies, I guess, would use it. We're not going to use that.
So, and we talked yesterday about some subcontracting information that you'd be interested in, or interested in going after subcontracting. In that case, you might want to, because the larger companies, the Bechtels, who we saw as the one of the big winners, they look at this stuff. They may not advertise their interest because they don't want to tell whoever else it is that they're going after the opportunity, but they might want to find a small business partner to team with.
That's a fair point. No.
That being said, you could always look at the potential participants, and we use an algorithm to find out who those might be. So with who's done work in Department of Energy, Management and Performance, Remediation Services in Utah with no socioeconomic status.
Okay.
And then you can change that because you want to see small business. And it'll update who's winning in the small business category.
Now that's powerful. I like that. Okay.
And that's just for this. Now you can do this the same way you can do it on the environmental management, on the agency chart information. So you can jump into an agency. I know we're coming up against the time. And you want to maybe look at how contractor spending goes within that agency.
Yeah, whether in the agency or across the board, the whole
Yeah.
government, but yeah.
Right, we can. And now you can also say, all right, well, that particular opportunity was around, was out of environmental management and the Department of Energy. You want to look at remediation services, who's doing work there, and you can see, and you can interact with this data as well. Are there any 8As doing remediation with the department, whatever it is, environmental management out of energy?
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, we know S&K. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Cool.
You know SNK. If you wanted to know SNK, you can, get company information on them as well. Or we can go into somebody that maybe you'd want a little bit more information and look at Bechtel Group. As we already saw, they're one of the big winners across the entirety of the government. So you can see if they're doing business and how they're doing business.
Okay.
So quick summary, here are their customers, which we can pull up here. Obviously, Navy, Energy, Army. You can export this. Lots of stuff there. You can interact with the fiscal year and the type of spending if you wanted to. You can even see where it's reported. This is not necessarily reported. In fact, it's reported sort of limits on a limited basis, but you could get an idea of who their subcontractors are. It's up to Bechtel themselves to report this, but here you go.
Okay, so all right, so that's good. Am I able to also? One of the new things that we've learned is, that the first 6 digits of pretty much every solicitation is a contracting office ID code. Am I able, as an example, I've got a teaming partner. They've asked me, or a company, they're not even a partner yet, and they want me to sub or talk about subbing for an opportunity over at Aberdeen, Aberdeen Proving Ground. But I'm curious, maybe I could prime. Is there a way I can look up all the opportunities just at Aberdeen's, whatever that specific contracting office code is?
So if I could speak to that real quick, the contracting office code is typically going to be reported on the solicitation number field. Is that what you're talking about when you're looking at the solicitation numbers?
Yeah. The first 6 numbers. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So you're typically going to do that with solicitation number when you're looking at opportunities that are upcoming. If you're doing that on the sort of spend data side,
yes,
you can do that. However, I would suggest you use those fields that we created, that we added onto the FPDS data of buying org and contracting org. That's going to be more reliable because that's coming from a field that's saying this organization is responsible for providing the preponderance of funds, regardless of which organization wrote the RFP.
Yeah, and you're right, because I'm not talking about current opportunities. I'd like to know the last 3 years. All the acquisitions that came out of a specific contracting office location, what have you.
Yep.
For what I do, because then I understand the propensity and I know, hey, I should be focused there, or no, there's not enough dollars. I probably should look elsewhere.
Yep, and you can do that. In Fed Spending Analytics, we have these filters at the top. They're actually, the search pages are identical for those 2 products. But in Fed Spending Analytics here, we have on the left side, that's the buying org. On the right side, that's the contracting org. So as you make selections here, sort of the next level will reveal itself so you can dive into those organizations. So if you select
for my example, which one is it? Is it the buying org or the contracting org?
What do you want to see? Who wrote the RFP or who's actually spending the money?
Who the actual end user is?
Then buying org. You've got to go with buying org, 100%.
Okay.
Contracting org just tells you who did the administrative work of the procurement. It doesn't tell you anything necessarily about who actually put up the money and has the need.
Okay. That's good.
So I would use buying org. And that's why you see Brian hasn't selected any filters on this yet. He just ran a search. By default, we're showing you buying org because buying org is really telling you who is actually spending the money, who's the user.
Okay. Fair enough.
And so what we did earlier, where you draw in those buying org levels, that lets you see all those organizations. And any of those organizations that reveal themselves as we do this exercise here, like for instance under HA or under Army here, the Assistant Secretary for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology, we could search that on the front end so that we're just looking at that slice if we want to. That's very easy to do as well.
Okay.
You would just select Army, and then right below it, a box would pop up, and you'd select that organization.
Cool. All right, guys, we're bouncing up here against the wall, and Brian and Nico, thank you very much. Brian, I'm a member of SAME. Is there any discounts for being a member of SAME in order to get onto your system?
Yeah, we're going to be offering 10% discount to any member of the SAME. So,
Awesome.
and my contact information is on the original slide deck that Tomel had posted up. At this point in time, you can get in direct contact with me if you're interested, and I can put you in touch with the correct person to do a similar demo that maybe focused on the type of company, the type of work that you want to do.
Gotcha. And do you have a slide with your contact info that I can see?
Yeah. So Mel, do you have that?
Yeah, I can. If you guys are done, I can take over the screen.
Yeah, and yeah, Brian, I think I'm good. Are you good?
I'm good if you are. If you don't have any more questions, I mean, there's a ton of stuff. I can go on for hours. I don't know if that's been made clear, but
from a basics perspective, and all these systems, it's sort of like Microsoft Word or Excel. You think you're really good at it, but you only know 1% of its full functionality capability. I'm gonna, as Tomel, you can go ahead and I guess move back to the slide. As he's doing that, as I said yesterday, Prospect Josh is gone, and now it's just me. Brian, thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to present to the group, and sort of take me through my paces a little bit, Josh. I appreciate it, man.
No, you betcha. And that's your contact info, right?
It's first name, last name @Deltek with a K instead of a CH.com.
Cool. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And again, anybody who needs anything, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help out.
Thank you on behalf of SME for doing this demo. It's very intuitive and very detail oriented. It was a great presentation. As they said before, if you are an SME member and you want to be a new subscriber, there is a discount, and you can just get in contact with Brian just to get more details on that. Give a few seconds for the people to ask questions in the chat functionality. Go ahead and write your questions in the chat. Well, it looks like people are leaving. So let's just go ahead and just move on to our upcoming events. Get some. So for 2020 JETC, we are still in discussion whether or not if it will be held. And this session will be made April 15th. You can just check on all of our social media platforms for that update on April 15th. Talks are being held for the facilities management workshop, if that will still be held in person, or if we're going to move it to what do I want to use? A webinar series or a digital conference. Or virtual conference, there we go, a virtual conference. So that will just be on the lookout for that on our media platforms as well. We are still planning to have the 2020 Small Business Conference in Dallas, Texas, November 4th through the 6th to be in person. So that you can look forward to that as well. But if you have any other questions as far as events wise, you can contact me. My contact information isn't on here, but it is tharbison@same.org. You can find that on our SAME website as well. For the presentation, it will be uploaded on the Small Business COI webpage at same.org. It will be uploaded in the next couple of days once we finish preparing them. But thank you again, everyone who attended. Thank you again, Brian and Josh, for doing this demo with us. We appreciate it very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamel.
Not a problem.